All right, so today we're going to look at something pretty wild, actually.
Yeah.
Basically, Heathrow Airport in
Yeah.
London, huge airport,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It completely shut down last Friday,
Wow.
March 21st, because of a power outage.
A power outage for the whole airport.
Yeah, so we're going to deep dive into this whole thing and figure out what caused it and what happened.
And, like, what does that mean for the rest of us?
Yeah, what does that mean for all of us? Exactly, right?
Right.
Like, how does this kind of thing happen and what can we learn from it?
Yeah, what can we learn from it? Totally.
So we've got a bunch of reports here. BBC News and CNN both covered it.
Awesome.
And yeah, so like our goal here is really to kind of go beyond those headlines, and like,
Really get into it.
yeah,
Get into the weeds.
like what actually happened and what does it tell us about these, systems that we all rely on?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how vulnerable are we to these kind of things?
Totally right. So let's start with what actually happened to trigger this whole thing.
Okay.
So it was Thursday night, right around 11:20 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Okay.
And there were two explosions.
Explosions.
Yeah, and then a huge fire broke out
Oh, wow.
at an electrical substation in Hayes,
Which is...
which is really close to Heathrow.
Oh, so right near the airport.
Yeah, so we're not talking about like, a blood fuse here. This is serious.
Yeah.
The fire involved a transformer,
Okay.
like a massive one with thousands of liters of cooling fluid in it.
So these transformers are important for, like, the airport's power.
Oh yeah, they're essential. They take the high voltage electricity from the grid and like step it down so the airport can actually use it.
Gotcha.
And the cooling fluid, keeps everything from like overheating.
Right.
So a fire of this size means something went really wrong inside that transformer.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad.
So obviously the immediate impact was huge.
Mm.
Over 65,000 homes in the area lost power.
Wow.
And of course, Heathrow itself.
Like, everything just went dark.
Pretty much.
Oh, man.
And it wasn't just like, lights out. Local
Oh.
schools had to close, and they even had to evacuate some residents from their homes.
Because of the fire?
Yeah, because of the fire and all the smoke.
So this is like a major emergency situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So for anyone trying to fly on Friday morning,
Yeah.
the news was basically just don't.
They shut the whole airport down.
Yeah, they announced a full-day closure for the whole airport.
Oh, wow.
You can imagine the chaos.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
People's travel plans just totally upended.
Right. Like, what do you even do?
I know. And they later said they'd try to get some flights going in the evening,
Okay.
focusing on, the flights that had to be diverted and getting those planes back where they needed to be.
So trying to get things back on track.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But the goal was to be fully operational again by Saturday morning.
Well,
Yeah, but the message was pretty clear. Don't even go to the airport unless your airline like specifically contacts you.
wow. So basically just stay home?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And by Friday afternoon, the full extent of the disruption was becoming clear.
Yeah.
Over 1,300 flights affected.
1,300.
Yeah, 1149 cancellations and 119 diversions.
So, like, flights just being sent to other airports?
Yeah, all over the UK and Europe.
Oh, man.
About 200,000 passengers impacted.
That's a lot of people.
Huge number.
Yeah.
And the airlines themselves were scrambling.
Yeah.
British Airways, they canceled all their short-haul flights.
All of them.
Yeah, and they were still trying to figure out what to do about their long-haul flights.
Oh, wow.
It was a mess.
Yeah, that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Totally.
So, what about the investigation? Like, what caused this fire in the first place?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
The Metropolitan Police Counter-Terrorism Command.
The counter-terrorism demand.
Okay. Yeah, they're the ones leading the investigation.
Seriously. Yeah?
Why?
Well, it might seem kind of dramatic, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But when you think about it, it makes sense.
Okay.
This substation, it's not just any substation.
Right.
It's considered critical national infrastructure.
Critical national infrastructure.
Yeah, it's like those essential services and systems that the country needs to function.
Okay.
Things like energy supply, transportation, communication.
Gotcha.
So an outage at Heathrow, it doesn't just affect air travel.
Right. It affects everything.
Yeah, it has implications for the whole country.
That makes sense then why they would be involved.
Exactly.
Okay.
So while the police said there was no indication of foul play at that point,
Right.
they were definitely keeping an open mind.
So they're not ruling anything out.
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the fact that they brought in a specialist unit like the Counterterrorism Command shows you how seriously they're taking this.
Yeah, definitely.
They want to figure out what happened fast and prevent any more disruption. Of course.
So while that investigation was going on, the emergency services were busy on the ground.
Right.
10 fire engines,
Wow.
about 70 firefighters.
That's a huge response.
It was a big fire.
Yeah.
They managed to get it under control by 6:30 a.m. Friday morning.
Okay, that's good at least.
Yeah, and thankfully they got 29 people to safety.
Okay.
And about 150 residents were evacuated from their homes nearby.
So no one was hurt.
That's right. As far as we know, everyone's okay.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what about the power? Like, how did they get that back on?
Well, National Grid, they were working hard to get things back online.
Okay.
They had to reconfigure the whole network.
Reconfigure, what does that mean?
Well, think of the power grid like a network of roads, right?
Okay.
When there's a blockage, you got to find alternative routes to get around it.
Oh, so like rerouting the electricity.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they managed to restore power to most homes by around 6 a.m.
Okay.
And by 2 p.m., they'd reconnected parts of Heathrow Airport.
Parts of it.
Yeah, they were connected to the North Hyde substation.
So not everything was back up yet.
No, and this is important because Heathrow itself said they didn't know when the power would be back on reliably for the whole airport.
So there was still a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
The CEO of Heathrow, Thomas Woldby, he called this incident a major severity event.
Major severity.
Yeah, and he even compared the impact to losing power in a mid-sized city.
Wow.
He said that their backup systems did work,
Okay.
but they just weren't big enough to handle the entire airport's needs.
So like they had backups, but not enough.
Right, they were designed for like smaller outages, not a complete loss of power.
That makes sense, I guess, but still.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, we can't forget about the people who were stuck in all of
Yeah,
this.
passengers.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
There were so many stories of people on flights from like Delhi, Brazil, all the way to Heathrow,
Yeah.
only to be turned around mid-air.
Turned around.
Yeah, they had to go back.
Wow.
And then there were the delays and diversions to other airports all over.
Yeah, with Manchester.
Yeah.
Even like Madrid, Paris, Amsterdam.
It was crazy. Imagine you're trying to get somewhere important.
Right.
Like, you know you're going to someone's 16th birthday party.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your flight's canceled or you're stuck in some random airport.
That would be awful.
It was a nightmare for a lot of people.
I bet.
And it really raised questions about, the whole system.
Yeah, like how could this happen?
Right.
How resilient is our infrastructure, really?
Exactly. And the chair of the Commons Transport Committee, they brought this up specifically. And
Yeah.
even Downing Street acknowledged that there are questions to answer.
So the government's taking it seriously.
Yeah, and they said they're likely to start doing resilience checks at other major airports.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you got to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again.
Totally.
And the energy regulator Ofgem, they announced a review of the whole incident.
A review.
Yeah, they want to understand what caused it and what lessons can be learned.
So hopefully they can prevent something like this from happening again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, babe.
But the airline industry, they were not happy.
Yeah, I bet they weren't.
The International Air Transport Association, IATA, they called it a clear planning failure.
A planning failure.
Yeah, they criticized Heathrow for relying on a single power source.
So if that one source goes down, everything goes down.
Exactly. And financial analysts are saying this could cost the airline industry hundreds of millions of pounds.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow.
And we even saw a dip in stock prices for some airlines.
Like British Airways?
Yeah, British Airways owner IAG, their stock went down.
Wow. So this is having a ripple effect across the whole industry.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But amidst all the chaos, there were some bright spots, like Eurostar.
The train company?
Yeah, they added extra train services between Paris and London.
To help people get where they needed to go.
Exactly. They were trying to accommodate some of those stranded passengers.
Well, that's nice of them.
It was a good move.
Yeah, definitely.
Shows how different parts of the transportation system can step up when things go wrong.
Totally.
And the impact of this whole thing, it was global.
Global.
Oh, yeah. Flights to and from major airports all over the world were affected.
So it wasn't just London.
No, it was everywhere.
Wow.
Some airports like Atlanta's Hartsfield Jackson, they said they weren't really impacted.
Okay.
But a lot of others had to deal with diversions and cancellations.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then, of course, there's the investigation into the fire itself.
Right.
They're looking at security footage, examining the damaged equipment.
To try and figure out what happened.
Yeah, they're keeping an open mind about all the possibilities.
Good.
It could be a technical malfunction or something else entirely.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see what they find.
Yeah.
And on the political side, Energy Secretary Ed Miliband said there was no suggestion of foul play.
Okay.
He thinks it was probably a catastrophic accident.
An accident?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Prime Minister Starmer said he's being kept up to date on the situation.
So the government's definitely paying attention.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Good.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, what are the big takeaways from this whole thing?
Yeah, what can we learn from this Heathrow mess?
Well, first of all, it shows just how vulnerable these major transportation hubs are.
Yeah.
Like one power outage and everything grinds to a halt.
And the effects are felt worldwide.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about airports either.
Right.
It's about any critical infrastructure.
Our power grids, our communication systems.
Yeah, all of it.
We rely on these things every day.
And we take them for granted.
Until something goes wrong.
Exactly.
So what can we do about it?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to make sure these systems are resilient.
Like able to withstand shocks.
Yeah, and that there are backups in place.
Redundancy.
Exactly, so that one failure doesn't bring everything down, and we need to be thinking about this stuff now.
Before the next big outage.
Exactly.
So, like, what are some specific things we can do?
Well, that's something for all of us to think about. Like, what are the potential points of failure in the systems we rely on?
And how can we make them more robust?
Exactly.
It's something we should all be paying attention to.
Absolutely.
So do your research, people.
And be prepared.
Yeah. You never know when the next Heathrow might happen.
That's right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.